Hey there, this is Anna, and I'm currently studying in the sixth semester of the Modern Languages degree in the Culture Studies side at WAPS. And the purpose of this video project is to provide extra information regarding an article I recently wrote, which is titled Stereotypes and Prejudice in Everyday Life. One interesting aspect I didn't have the chance to include had the function of addressing this issue, but in a way more focused on adolescents. And one would not think that the discrimination could arise in groups of friends because these comments are usually seen as innocent jokes. But it has been concluded that adolescents often use stereotypical comments to lessen their cognitive burden due to their constant struggle with the process of trying to find their own identity. I have witnessed such comments. That is the reason why I have seen how people who are being targeted allow this kind of behavior for fear of being also pointed out as a person who is killing the mood and having no sense of humor. I also have seen how people try to justify themselves by saying that society has become so sensitive and that they won't act in a politically correct way. Thus, although it took me some time to organize the information, it has not been difficult for me to develop this aspect. What most influences the misplaced and stereotyped perception of some countries or ethnic groups is a lack of contact between racial groups, since sometimes people prefer, instead of do some research on their own, prefer to rely on what the media distribute. What is more, Latinos are often perceived as criminals and have been associated multiple times with immigration and, of course, drug dealers. Considering the vicious cycle in which our society is constantly involved and all those things that discrimination leads to, it was a bit difficult for me to decide which concepts I was going to address and how extensively I was going to do it in the second aspect, because my intention was to use several examples. Unfortunately, I had to limit some of my information in order to give it its proper space to each point. Regarding cultural appropriation, Victoria's Secret is an standing brand since it has been involved numerous times in problems of this nature. One of their most notable controversies was the 2010 show that was called Wild Things, due to the use of body paint that resemble tattoos and the use of pieces of clothing characteristic of indigenous people. Honestly, it was a bit difficult to properly divide the topics and determine which will explain more in depth and which will be only examples of cultural theft. So I didn't add all the examples I collected regarding fashion. Despite this, the whole research was not in vain, since I was able to realize that on several occasions part of the creativity or the innovative models of certain designers are only copies of cultural aspects external to them. In the end, we depend on our ability to place objects, ideas, and even people into different categories so as to somehow make the world easier to understand. And sometimes we are just saturated with too much information, and being able to categorize this allows us to quickly react to any kind of situation, but it also can lead us to make mistakes. Now, prejudice and stereotyping are two clearly examples of these common mistakes that come from this tendency to place people into erroneous categories. and of course, which also often leads people to minimize cultural aspects outside their own.